So I did it.
Oh, cool.
So a couple of weeks ago, I got this fragrance oil from Fizz. Hey guys, I just got a huge box from Fizz. Let's open it together. I have all these amazing fall fragrances, and I want to smell Brazilian Bum Bum Cream because this is such a popular fragrance oil, and I can see why. You can smell coconut in this and creaminess. Oh, it's so good. I don't know what I'm gonna make with this, but I'm gonna make something with this. Wow. And being an avid shopper of Sephora, I knew exactly what Brazilian Bum Bum Cream was. This cream is a cult favorite and is on the holy grail lists of thousands of people. Since I make my own creams, I've never felt the need to buy this cream for myself. But once I got this fragrance oil, I thought it would be fun to research this cult favorite and see if I could dupe this cream. After studying its long ingredient list, I thought, I think I can do this. Watch till the end of the video to see whether or not I was successful. So the first step was to look at this ingredient list. And the first thing that jumps out at you is that it's a really long list. A lot of people are critical of that, but you have to remember that this company mass produces this cream and sells millions of units every year. If I were selling products on a massive scale, I would probably also be using ingredients like this to help stabilize my product to ensure that it is a quality product when it reaches my customers. And a company as big as this will have access to resources and suppliers that the everyday crafter is not going to have access to. So while this list looks really long and intimidating, a lot of the stuff small crafters probably won't need to achieve similar results. So once I had a general idea about what each ingredient did, then I needed to go and actually buy this cream to see what the consistency was. And so I headed down to my local Sephora to pick up a jar of BBC. And I have shopped at Sephora countless times, and this cream is always there. But this particular instance, when I went to pick it up, they had some sort of promotional thing going on where I actually got to try some. And I had assumed that BBC would be thick, kind of like a body butter, but I was pretty surprised to see that it had a very light consistency. It absorbed really quick, and it was just really, it was almost watery. And I just want to take a moment to talk about the amazing marketing around this product. You walk in and you see these beautiful bright colors, and it really draws you in as a customer to pick up a jar of this stuff. And this cream is not cheap. It's like 30 bucks for a small jar like this, but people buy them like crazy. I'm guessing it's because of the smell and the texture, but definitely because of the marketing on top of all of that. So after trying it out, I buy myself a jar and start formulating. Because I have psoriasis, I prefer my creams to be on the thicker side, more of the butter consistency. So formulating a cream that was more liquid and lightweight was going to be different for me. And I knew right away that this recipe that I was formulating would need a lot more water than my emulsified body butter recipe has. So I knew I had to up my water amount, and not by a little, by a lot. And just like with BBC's ingredient list, water was going to be at the top of mine as well. And to that water, I was going to add my glycerin and xanthan gum. I'm not going to add my xanthan gum directly to the water because that can cause clumps. A great way to work with xanthan gum is to dissolve it in glycerin. And that way it will suspend the xanthan gum long enough for you to be able to mix it into the water and not get these weird jelly clumps. So once those three ingredients are combined, I put that into a water bath to heat up. Next, I'm going to measure out my emulsifiers, co-emulsifiers, and moisturizers. And my emulsifier for this recipe is Olivem 1000 because I noticed on Winnie Point's website that I could use Olivem 1000 to create lighter emulsions. I also noticed on that same listing that it suggested glycerol stearate and cetyl alcohol to use in combination with Olivem 1000 as co-emulsifiers to help stabilize my product. And I also noticed that these two ingredients were in BBC's ingredient list. My next couple ingredients are my moisturizers, and the first one is going to be my caprylic capric triglycerides. This ingredient was pretty high up in the BBC's ingredient list. And caprylic capric triglycerides is a very light, very fast absorbing moisturizer. So I'm not surprised that it's high up on the BBC's ingredient list. I decided to use this at a higher amount than all my other moisturizers. And after that, I added my coconut oil and Capuaçu butter. Capuaçu butter is highlighted in Sol de Janeiro's product listing. They call it Amazon's answer to shea butter. And like shea butter, it locks in moisture and improves skin's elasticity. I had never worked with Kapuasu butter before. I hope I'm saying that right. But its texture is actually very similar to shea butter in that it's not too hard. There's a softness to it. Next were the oils that I decided to use. I did not have access to acai oil or Brazilian nut oil. So I decided to use light, fast absorbing oils that I knew had also amazing properties, like camellia seed oil, apricot kernel oil, and rosehip oil. And you'll find when it comes to oils and lotions and creams, you can swap out these oils for other types of oils and you shouldn't feel too much of a difference. As long as the feel properties and absorbency rates are the same, I felt pretty confident swapping those out for other ones and knowing it wasn't going to make that much of an impact. Next, I add some vitamin E, which is very thick and viscous, and after that, squalene. Squalene is an emollient that conditions and softens skin as well. So I took my emulsifiers, my stabilizers, my moisturizers, and I melted it down in a water bath. And these two groups of ingredients, I'm going to heat up until they reach at least 160 degrees Fahrenheit. And while those two are heating up, I'm going to put together my last group of ingredients, which are heat resistant, and that's why we add it later once things have cooled down. At the top of the BBC's ingredient list, there are a whole bunch of emollients under names that I didn't recognize or know. And since I didn't have access to these, I replaced them with other goodies that I had on hand and I feel are just as good. I added some ceramides, DL-panthenol, and allantoin, all things your skin loves. These ingredients really work to repair your skin, lock in moisture, give your skin a glow. I try to include them in most of my high-end creams. And next is my preservative. I definitely use preservative in all of my emulsions. I'm using Liquid Dermal Plus here. And for my extract, I decided to use cucumber liquid extract. And the very last ingredient is the Brazilian Bum Bum Cream Fragrance Oil by Fizz. So after everything is measured out and put into the same beaker, I just set that aside and I wait. Kapuasu butter is solid at room temperature, so is coconut oil, and my emulsifiers are hard pellets. All of this stuff has to melt down, and I prefer to melt them down in a water bath because it helps to evenly melt things down slowly over time. And when it comes to emulsifiers, you really want your oils and butters and your water to be around the same temperature before you bring them together. But if you ignore that and try to bring your waters and oils and butters together when they're too cool, or if there's too much of a discrepancy in their temperatures, you might find that the two won't combine properly, or they might separate at a later time, which is also not good. Once everything is between 160 degrees Fahrenheit and 170 degrees Fahrenheit, that's when I snap into action and combine everything together. And when you're creating an emulsion, the best tool for that is an immersion blender. And when I'm blending with this tool, I'm blending for at least 2 minutes to ensure everything gets fully mixed together. And what you'll end up with is something that looks a lot like milk. At this point, it's still gonna be way too hot to add your other ingredients that you've set aside. So what you're gonna do is to wait. You're gonna wait until that emulsion cools down to under 115 degrees Fahrenheit. This is especially important if you're using Liquid Dermal Plus because this preservative can break down and not be as effective if you add it at higher temperatures. I keep an eye on my cream as it's cooling down because I definitely prefer to add these ingredients, the third set of ingredients, while the cream is still a little bit liquid because it's easier to mix everything together using an immersion blender. You can mix everything together using a spatula, but what you'll find is that it gets kind of chunky and it's harder to get that smooth consistency. And immersion blenders work best if what you're trying to blend is kind of in a liquid state, so I try to keep an eye on it to make sure that once it gets underneath that safe temperature, that's when I'll go ahead and blend everything together. Getting kind of creamy at this point, which is great, but it's still not ready to be jarred in my opinion. I like to have it cool down to at least room temperature. So I leave it alone for another half hour or so. After that is over, I am left with this amazingly smooth, creamy, lightweight cream that smells amazing. I love this cream so much. And because the BBC comes in such small jars, I decided to jar this cream in 4-ounce glass jars.
Why is it hard on my own? Why am I not like her? Baby, my soul, why must the curtains come down? Why must the curtains come down? It's effortless now. In the end, wish to leave something special. Let him talk.
So I did it
Oh, cool.
It's the dupe of the Brazilian Bum Bum Cream that you tried at Sephora.
Okay, I'm excited to try yours.
Yeah, we'll see if it comes close to the real thing.
I'll give you my thoughts.
Okay. So the first test is a smell test. So here's Brazilian Bum Bum Cream.
It smells like a dessert.
And then here's our lotion. Our cream, Zimmerman cream. It's very close.
That's very similar, yeah.
And next is the texture test. So you remember how it felt when we tried it in Sephora, it was really light. So let's try a little bit now to, when you put my finger in there, it is super light, almost like a gel texture. It's super light and creamy. So let's try a little bit. It's very smooth. Applies very wet, like a very light lotion.
Very light, yeah. Yep. I think that's
Yeah.
the best description, is light.
I can see why it's so popular in the summertime. It's really airy and fluffy. It smells so good.
Yeah.
All right, now let's try Zimmerman cream. So remember how nicely my finger dug into this cream. Let's see if it does that for our cream. And it goes in with the same lightness, which is good. I think in terms of texture, I nailed down the texture.
That's nice. That's great.
So this applies a little bit more white, and I think that's the Olive M1000, but you can see it absorbed pretty fast.
The one we got from Sephora just absorbs just a touch quicker, but
yeah, it's a little
it
lighter.
only took like 2 or 3 more, I don't know, extra finger strokes
Yeah.
on my arm. Yeah.
But in terms of any cream that I've formulated before, this is probably one of the lightest formulas I've ever come up with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's very, very similar to the Brazilian Bum Bum Cream, just a touch thicker, and because of the Olive M1000, takes like a fraction of a second longer to absorb into our skin. But I would say this is pretty close.
Eerily similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This cream was so much fun to dupe, and I learned so much in this process. Before you come for me in the comments about copying, these jars are going to be fun gifts for my friends and family we're visiting on our vacation. We are not selling them. But thank you to Fizz for sending us the Brazilian Bum Bum type fragrance oil to try out. This scent is divine. Make a lotion, candle, or bath bomb in this scent, and you'll have an instant bestseller. If you want to get your hands on this, I have a link in my description. If you want the full recipe and steps, you can find that on my Patreon. Speaking of my Patreon, thank you to my wonderful patrons, especially my Bubble BFFs who are listed right here. You guys are fantastic, and your support means everything to me. Please let me know what you think about this project in the comments, and throw a like if you enjoyed. It really helps the channel out. And of course, if you want to see more, then subscribe for more Bath and Body projects. Until the next video, keep smiling, keep being awesome, and keep making beautiful things like dupes for expensive brands like Brazilian Bum Bum Cream. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.